Basketball and hockey are over, and we're 2.5 months away from college football season starting. So, Jake, today I'm going to give you my SEC preseason win total predictions, and I want to hear some of yours too. Does that sound good?
Sounds great. This is going to be the first video in our series right here on the BroThrow YouTube channel, breaking down all the overs and unders for major conference college football.
And make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet, because we're going to be giving you our picks throughout the entire season. And yeah, Jake and I, we know what we're talking about when it comes to college football betting. But I'm going to start this off with Arkansas over 6.5 at -122. They were a top 10 team last year, 3-0, going into the Texas A&M game. KJ Jefferson gets to the goal line, fumbles it, A&M scores after, and then the entire season unraveled. They proceeded to lose 4 games by 3 points or less. It was dark times for Arkansas last year, but this year I'm pretty optimistic. You got KJ Jefferson coming back for his 3rd year as a starter. He's got a 48-10 touchdown to interception ratio. He's completing 67% of his passes and averages 4 yards a carry. But we all know he had some injury issues. But have no fear. You've got Rocket Sanders back there with him and 2 other guys who can start in the SEC. Raheem Sanders back for his 3rd season, 1,700 total yards and 12 touchdowns last year, averaging 6.5 yards a carry. They did lose their top 6 receivers, but they got 3 transfers in who are all 6'3", big body dudes who are coming off 500, 1,000, and 1,300 yard seasons. Flipping over to the defense, they were terrible last year, I think ranking in the bottom of the SEC. Giving up 460 yards a game, I think 30 points a game, and they ended up with a new DC. They've already got that strong offense. The defense is what's going to have to at least be serviceable to get them to that 7-win mark. Breaking down their schedule, you've got 4 free wins. Western Carolina, Kent State, FIU, and BYU, who I had to throw in there because they did win that game last year on the road by 17. 2 losses on the road at Bama and LSU, and then 6 toss-ups. Just win 3 of those 6 toss-ups, and you're back to a 7-win season, Sam Pittman. He's already gotten to 9 wins before with KJ. I think he'll do it again. I am on the over.
Yeah, the most intriguing thing for me with Arkansas is their schedule. They only have 4 true road games the entire season, 2 of which are against Georgia and Alabama, 2 games they were going to lose no matter if it was at home, on the road, or neutral site. So those being on the road is even more beneficial for Arkansas. All of the other 10 games would have a great shot in. I really like the opportunity for them to go at least over 7.
And next, we've got Florida, who you're on for the under.
That's right. Florida did not have the greatest season last year with Anthony Richardson. He was super hyped before the season as a top 10 draft pick. He ended up going number 4 overall in the draft, and they still only went 6-7 on the season. Now, this season, they have a very difficult schedule. Out of conference, they have to go against Utah and Florida State, 2 top 15 teams in the country with really good, long-tenured quarterbacks. Plus, they're in a very difficult SEC conference, having to play Tennessee, Georgia, Arkansas, LSU. That's probably 6 losses on the schedule right there. And they have to win all the rest of their games just to hit that over 5.5. Now, they lost Anthony Richardson, as I said, and they replaced him with Graham Mertz from Wisconsin, who you and I have watched many football games with him in the past, and he is not a very good quarterback. In fact, he has been the starting quarterback in Wisconsin for 3 seasons, and he has 0 300-yard games in that time. I just don't think that the team has improved from last year, and I don't think the schedule's doing them any favors. Really like this under 5.5 look at plus odds.
Fading Graham Mertz, I'm with you. Next, I've got Ole Miss over 7.5. And if we're being real, I'm just taking Lane Kiffin here. This is a team who started off last season 8-1 before they lost their last 3. But this year's schedule is going to be a little bit tougher. They got road games at Tulane, at Bama, and at Georgia. But I'm putting my faith in Kiffin to have a better team in 2023 than he did last season. We're not entirely sure who's going to be the starting QB because you've got Jackson Dart, who's returning with 3,500 total yards, and then Spencer Sanders, who transferred in from Oklahoma State, who's got 9,000 career passing yards and 85 touchdowns. Either one's going to be successful, in my opinion, because they have 4 returning starters on the O-line, and they've got a guy who's a top 3 running back in the country who ran for 1,600 yards as a true freshman, Quinshawn Judkins. You've got that much returning firepower on offense, plus 2 new receiver transfers to make up for the 2 starters they lost. Trey Harris, who had 900 yards last year at Louisiana Tech, and Zachary Franklin from Texas San Antonio, who has 3,400 yards in his entire career. Offense isn't going to be an issue in my book. The defense returns 5 starters, but Kiffin did land the 4th-best portal class in the nation, and he brought in 5 former starters from other schools who are at least going to compete for playing time. Obviously, the key with this team is going to be the offense, as it is every year with Lane. They ranked 8th nationally last year, but they failed to score at least 30 points in all 4 of their losses, and like I said, the defense just wasn't up to par. So if the offense can score a little bit more, and I think they're going to be able to, then they should be able to get back to 9 or even 10 wins. You've got 4 free wins: Mercer, Georgia Tech, Monroe, Vanderbilt. 2 losses on the road at Bama and at Georgia, very similar to the setup that Arkansas has. And then you've got 6 toss-ups. Lane just needs to win 4 of those 6, and he'll get them back into the 8-win area. So, Jake, what are your thoughts? Are you riding the over, or is this one a stay away?
One of the things I love about Lane is he's really embraced the transfer portal, probably more so than any other coach in college football. Back-to-back seasons now, he's at top 5 transfer classes, and the transfer guys are ready to come in and compete and contribute right away. It's not like with a freshman where you have to develop them for a couple of years. So as long as Lane keeps doing this, I'm going to like Ole Miss every single year to compete. I agree with you. Spencer Sanders is probably the guy for the job. I can't imagine he transferred out of Oklahoma State, where he was the unquestioned starter, to sit on the bench at Ole Miss. And if he is the starter, I think they're going to have a really strong season. So I like the over 7.5 look for sure.
It's a good point. I don't know why he would transfer if he wasn't going to start, but back-to-back years for transfer quarterbacks to Ole Miss. It's an interesting situation over there. Your next pick, Tennessee under 9. I'm not sure if this is a popular one because a lot of people are riding high on the Tennessee wave right now.
Yeah, Tennessee had a really strong season last year. They're losing Hendon Hooker and replacing him with Joe Milton, and that's why I like Tennessee under 9. He's a huge downgrade from Hendon Hooker, and he's got a huge arm, no doubt about that. But the accuracy is just not there whatsoever. We saw him play plenty at Michigan, and he got benched, not for J.J. McCarthy. Remember, it was for Cade McNamara. That's how bad he was at Michigan. Couldn't keep the job there. Had to transfer down to Tennessee. They have a difficult schedule going against Alabama and Georgia. Those are going to be 2 losses. They're only allowed 1 more loss the entire rest of the season. I just don't think Joe Milton's going to be able to get it done. They lost a lot of production at wide receiver. They're losing their top 2 guys in Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman. And if they have to go to their 5-star true freshman, Nico Iamaleava, then it's probably precipitated by an unexpected loss or an injury to Milton, in which case they're probably losing one of those extra games and they can't even hit the over. There's a lot of juice on there. A lot of people are on the over, but I don't think Tennessee's going to have a stronger season they did last year, regardless of how good I think Josh Heupel is as a coach. So I'm taking the under here, and it's another fade quarterback situation.
Yeah, it's all on the quarterback. I'm probably going to stay away from this one because you make some good points about Joe Milton. Those Michigan days were not doing him any favors. South Carolina over 6.5 at plus odds. I don't know why you're getting plus odds for a coach who was 6-6 in his first year, 8-4 in his second year, and could have won 9. He returned Spencer Rattler, who finally hit his stride in their last 3 games. And he does lose Jaheim Bell and Marshawn Lloyd, but he returns his number 1 receiver, Antoine Wells, who was by far the best on their team. They've got 3 of the starters on the line coming back, but the big question is going to be, how much better can the offense be with a new OC? Last year, a lot of fans blamed Marcus Satterfield for the slow start, and when Beamer jumped in and gave his input against Tennessee, it showed how good they actually were. The big question mark is going to be the run game since they lost their 2 top rushers to the portal, but that's why this win total is so low, even though Beamer's got some momentum. The defense has a really strong secondary with all 4 starters returning, but the front 7 was an issue last year. They could not stop the run. And I'm just strictly taking this over because Shane Beamer has the momentum. He's a really good coach. He's been recruiting pretty well, and he's shown progress. So you've got some toss-up games in Mississippi State, Florida, Kentucky, Clemson at home, A&M, Mizzou on the road, and they've just got to win 4 of those 7 if they want to hit this over. Furman, Jacksonville State, Vanderbilt, all free, and a couple losses to Georgia and Tennessee on the road. Again, I'm just riding momentum here, and I'm trusting in a coach who I think can get the job done.
Yeah, Spencer Rattler has really proven a lot from when he got benched to Oklahoma to where he is now at South Carolina. And while they do have a very difficult schedule, he is going to be one of the preeminent quarterbacks returning in the SEC with a lot of pedigree and a lot of experience, and it's tough to bet against that.
Next, you got Bama over 10.5 at plus 148. Those are damn good odds.
Yeah, the plus odds on this is just absolutely ridiculous. I think it's so high because a lot of people are doubting the Alabama quarterback situation. Jalen Milroe was the backup last year. He played a couple games and looked pretty rough in relief of Bryce Young. But they also got Tyler Buckner in as a transfer, And given that their new offensive coordinator is Tommy Rees, the Notre Dame offensive coordinator who previously coached Buckner, I would guess that he's going to win the job, and he looked a lot better in his time at Notre Dame than Milroe did at Alabama. And besides, I'm not even worried about the quarterback play. This is Alabama. They've gone over 10.5 wins 10 out of the last 12 years. And some of their quarterbacks in that time period, Jake Coker, Blake Sims, and don't forget he won multiple national championships with A.J. McCarron. Not worried at all about the quarterback situation. The rest of the team is incredibly talented, 5 stars all over the entire roster, and they have a pretty easy schedule. Their 5 toughest opponents are all at home this season. Texas, Ole Miss, LSU, Tennessee, Arkansas, all at Bryant-Denny Stadium. They don't get Georgia on the season. They got to lose 2 games somehow. I'm not buying it. Give me the plus odds every single day. Roll Tide.
I probably wouldn't touch this if it was minus 110. I would just leave it alone. But I think if I'm going to get plus in Nick Saban, it just makes sense. I'll follow on that one. Last, I didn't take a pick on this. I'm not sure if you did either, but we wanted to talk about it since Georgia is getting plus odds to go over 11.5. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, so over 11.5 means they have to go undefeated. Remember, SEC championship games, playoff games do not count for their over-under totals. But I just don't see anyone on the schedule who can beat them. I don't care that they lost Stetson Bennett, and I don't care if it's Carson Beck, Brock Vandergriff, or literally anyone can step in off the street. I would like Georgia to win every single game on their schedule just with how good the team is. They're too well coached. There's too much talent all over. Tennessee is the toughest opponent on the schedule, in my opinion, and I'm not a big Milton believer. So I'll take Georgia all day to go undefeated again. Kirby Smart's got a real hell of a program there.
Here are the 2 dates to look at. November 11th, home against Ole Miss. November 18th, on the road at Tennessee. If they're going to slip up, it's going to be in one of those 2 games. Maybe it's a look-ahead spot and you lose to Ole Miss at home because they're worried about Tennessee. Or maybe they get beat up by Ole Miss and then they go in lagging against Tennessee, and that's game of the year vibes for them. So I'm going to stay away from this one because those are 2 potential options where they could lose. I don't think they're going to lose them, but you never know. So stay away. But I do like the plus odds with Kirby Smart. If it didn't have those 2 games, that could be slip-ups.
It's just crazy that they have to go undefeated again to win the bet.
It's dangerous. But thank you for your picks, Jake, and I'll see you in the next one.